Hello, I'm Liz Zorab and today I'm at Ragmans farm, which is a 60-acre permaculture farm in the Forest of Dean. I'm having an absolutely fantastic day today. We've come to have a look around this lovely farm in such a beautiful setting. With just so much going on here. So this is John, and John, well, do you want to tell us what you do here, John?
Yeah, sure. So I run the market garden here at Ragmans, which is actually a separate business to the sort of main farm.
Yeah.
I rent this field, another field, and a few polytunnels, and a house from the farm. And I, with help from a couple of trainees and volunteers in the summertime, I grow lots of vegetables, and especially a lot of salads, because it's quite a small area. It's actually only half an acre of vegetable beds that we grow on, which, as sort of commercial veg growing businesses go, is kind of tiny, really. Yeah. So we do focus a lot on higher value crops like, salad leaves, other leafy things like spinach and chard. Yeah. Also a lot of the fruit vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, courgettes, beans.
So how long have you been here?
I've been here coming up for 5 years. This is my 5th season here now.
And so when you took over this site, was it already a market garden?
No, it had been, interestingly, back in the 90s. So there was some infrastructure around. There was a water supply, there was polytunnel frames but not covers and so on. But it was basically just fields of grass. So the fact that there was a little bit of the infrastructure in place meant that we were able to set it up on a real shoestring budget. Yeah. But it was also still quite a lot of work getting it to the place of building the soil, getting the soil to a place where we could actually grow stuff in it. So I've been adding a lot of compost over the years. And
I'm really sorry about the noise. That is Hugh with his drone filming. He's just above us there. We could give him a quick wave. Obviously he's not above us, the drone's above us. So he's having doing some films, so we can actually have a look at the market garden here, at all that's being grown here. I'm blown away by this. It's really exciting to see. So he's gone again, brilliant. So you had some infrastructure, you had the polytunnel frames, and then you've done everything since then.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take all the credit myself. I set it up with some friends as a partnership, and then they moved on after doing a lot of the hard work, and I got to.
So how easy has it been for you to go, okay, well I'm growing all this veg, but I grow loads of veg, but it goes in my freezer. Yeah. So how simple a process was it for you to then be able to find people to buy it? Because presumably people aren't just turning up and saying, can I have 2 leeks?
No. It's yeah. For the first couple of years, it was sort of quite hard, sort of getting our markets established, both in terms of finding the right places to sell to, and I guess growing the right things that there was a real demand for, and that it was sort of financially viable for us to grow. So for example, we could grow loads of potatoes here, but the amount of effort it takes us to grow them, if you're growing them by hand compared to something on a bigger scale with all the precise sort of tractor equipment for it, means that that's essentially not worthwhile. Whereas things like salad particularly, but also anything that will be picked by hand really, so say climbing French beans or whatever, you're not growing it on a small scale that differently to how somebody's going to be growing it on a big scale really. So it's nice to focus on those things. In terms of actually selling it, one thing that we were really lucky with, so in the Forest of Dean, just when we were starting up about 4 or 5 years ago, there was also being set up something called the Dean Forest Food Hub. Right, which I don't know if you're familiar with. Yeah, I'm familiar with food hubs. So if you're not familiar with food hubs, I will do a separate video, tell you all about them, because it's really exciting stuff. Yeah, no, I agree. And that basically enables us to sell directly to retail customers, but to lots of them without having to take lots of individual separate orders. But so we'll put up on the website, each week that we've got, 25 punnets of tomatoes, 20 bags of spinach, 30 bags of salad, and so forth, and people will order those for themselves up to the limit or not, as the case may be. And the beautiful thing about it is that, unlike a shop, we do sell to organic and village shops as well, but obviously they have to make a fair bit of money to keep the shop going. So what we find is that we get less money, and the customer themselves has to pay more Whereas the food hub, because it's got such low overheads, it's like we can get a decent income from it, and it's also still a reasonable price.
And presumably, also, you know how much of you need to cut.
Yes.
Before you take it there, you're not just saying, okay, well, I'm going to cut a whole row of spinach today and then find it doesn't get sold. You actually have some control over how much you're cutting.
Yeah, we only harvest to order, and it's the same is true for our shop customers and so forth. And we did try markets a little bit early on, but that was one of the things I found dispiriting about them. If you're bringing back stuff,
yes,
and then there's a lot of preserving you got to do.
It is.
So obviously right behind us is a beautiful large piece of black plastic. We don't actually grow through plastic much. We use it more as an overwinter mulch. I find it really useful actually for just if you're done with a bed for the season over winter, you're killing the weeds for a start that are underneath it, so I would tend to sort of trim it down, and but it's not like you're leaving it sort of dead over winter, because there's all the weeds and like crop residue. So we had a load of, under that bit there's a load of the sort of tops and tails of the leeks and stuff, so that will just all be kind of composting down in situ over the winter.
Brilliant.
The other thing about, and as will the weeds that are dying back and their sort of roots and so forth, and that will be happening all in the soil, which will be feeding all the microorganisms in the soil, kind of keeping it quite healthy. The other really useful thing with it is that it's not permeable to water, so obviously some water will get through, but so this spring was, I don't know if it feels like a very long time ago now, but March was very cold and wet.
It was very, very snowy, wasn't it?
Absolutely. But we found that if it had been uncovered, the soil would have been far too saturated to start working. But here, if it had been raining for the last couple of days, or it wasn't raining today, you could just sort of roll back a bed's worth of the plastic, and the soil underneath it wouldn't be too soaked. And what we tend to do is just we do have a rotavator that we use occasionally, but we try and do real minimum cultivation, just because it's good for the soil health, really, to not do too much to it. So most of the time we'll just maybe aerate it a bit with a broad fork, which is just sort of lifting it up a bit rather than turning it over, and then just giving it a good bashing with a rake and sort of a final flattening off with a rake. And then for most beds, we haven't been able to do it as much as we'd like to this year, because we've been struggling to source the compost that we use, but the municipal compost, which is just from sort of council garden waste collections and so forth, we have used a lot of that, and that's...
So does that, I always imagine that's got loads of like weed seeds or bits of bindweed in it, so what is it heat treated enough that it doesn't carry all of those things?
It really is really good at being weed seed free, and it's composted, if anything it's composted too hot,
right,
so it's not got a huge amount of goodness in it, but it's extremely cheap. So, and it's good to have a lot of organic matter in the soil. It's rarely a problem to have sort of too much. So what we tend to do is we use it as a mulch. So we prepare the bed, and then put a layer of it on top and sort of rake it kind of flat, and then plant through that, basically plant modules or even sow seeds.
So that's not actually sowing the seeds direct into it, that's getting down to the ground to put the seeds in, is it?
To the soil beneath, because if you imagine, well, usually we do most things, we raise them in module trays, so those are the trays where you have like 100 or so plants just all together, and then there's a sort of about that depth of compost, so if you plant that, and there's that maybe that half compost, but they're also getting down to the soil a bit too beneath it. And so you can put quite a lot of this stuff on, and you don't have any issue with it being kind of too much and too fertile or whatever, which can lead to sort of sappy growth. And it's just great for suppressing the weeds, And we're looking really weedy this year because we didn't have enough of that. So
my garden's looking really weedy this year because I haven't done anything about it at all. So.
Well, it's a good strategy.
We've had such a good visit here today. I'm really excited by what I'm seeing happening here. So John, thank you ever so much for your time.
Oh, lovely
showing
talking
us
to you.
around.
Very welcome.
I'm going to come back again and spend a whole day here. I'm hoping that John and Matt will let me come do a bit of work here too.
Yeah, great.
Brilliant. So that's it for me today. I'm heading back to Byther Farm very shortly. And so wherever you are in the world and whatever you've got planned for today, I hope it's a good one. And I also hope you'll join me again tomorrow.